At sunrise, a feared Mafia boss takes his deaf little girl to the park. She won't look at anyone until a poor woman kneels, signs a few gentle words, and the child lights up for the first time. The boss freezes. Protection turns into obsession. He brings the woman into their world, and that's when the shadows move. A black car waits. A secret locket surfaces. A twisted video appears online. Suddenly, the woman looks like a traitor, the child becomes leverage, and the lights go out on a city block where men with guns hunt in the dark. But in that darkness, the girl's tiny hands send a rhythm only her family understands. What truth is that poor woman hiding? Who doctored the lie that tore them apart? And when the bullets stop, will the most dangerous man in the city choose revenge, or the one woman who can teach his daughter to speak to the world? The morning light filters through the drizzle, casting a soft glow on the nearly empty park. Damien's shoulders remain rigid as he watches his daughter crouch by the puddle, her small fingers carefully folding the damp paper. His men form a loose circle, their dark suits absorbing the misty rain as their eyes scan the perimeter. Ivy's face scrunches in concentration, her dark curls falling forward as she tries to keep the paper boat from sinking. The sight makes Damien's chest tight. These precious moments of normalcy are rare in their world of armored cars and security protocols. When the food cart worker approaches, Damien's hand instinctively moves toward his concealed weapon. But the woman's movements are slow, deliberate, and entirely focused on Ivy. Her hands flow through the air in graceful signs, and the transformation in Ivy is immediate and stunning. His daughter's eyes light up, her hands flying in response. Damien has spent years learning sign language, practicing late into the night, yet he's never seen Ivy engage so naturally with anyone outside their small circle. The stranger, Ren, matches Ivy's enthusiasm with patient guidance, her smile genuine and warm. "I learned at the library," Ren explains, her voice soft but clear. She brushes off his offered payment as if refusing a crime boss is an everyday occurrence. "Some things aren't about money." The LED keychain catches the morning light as Ren shows Ivy a simple game. Flash, tap, pause. Flash, tap, pause. His daughter's delighted giggles break through the steady patter of rain. Damien observes how Ren establishes a rhythm. Gentle touches to Ivy's wrist, maintaining eye contact, waiting for recognition before moving forward. It's more than just sign language. It's a framework of trust built in minutes, something Damien has struggled with for years. His world of sharp edges and calculated risks seems far removed from this moment of pure connection. "A private lesson," he says, the words more command than request. But Ren's hesitation is visible, her eyes darting to his guards, to his expensive watch, to the barely concealed bulge of his shoulder holster. Ivy's double-handed "please" melts Ren's resistance. "For Ivy," she emphasizes, and Damien notes how she positions herself, slightly angled, ready to step back, maintaining space while staying engaged. The paper boat passes from Ren's hands to Ivy's, a simple gift that makes his daughter beam. "Tonight," Ren promises in both speech and sign, and Damien feels something shift in his carefully ordered world. He watches Ren return to her cart, her movements efficient but unhurried. The want that courses through him is familiar yet different. Not the usual calculated desire for acquisition, but something rawer, more dangerous. He recognizes the feeling for what it is, a crack in his armor. His men await orders, rain darkening their shoulders. Ivy clutches her paper boat, watching Ren with longing that mirrors his own. Damien checks his phone, messages demanding attention, threats requiring response, empire-building decisions waiting to be made. But for now, he focuses on his daughter's smile, on the promise of evening, on the woman who didn't flinch away. Ivy tugs his sleeve, signing rapidly about her new friend. Her excitement is contagious, and Damien finds himself responding with matching enthusiasm, their hands dancing through the morning mist. He helps her fold another paper boat, watching it bob in the puddle until it slowly sinks. The rain begins to fall harder, and Damien gently guides Ivy toward their waiting car. She carefully tucks Ren's paper boat into her coat pocket, protecting it like a treasure. His security team moves with practiced precision, opening doors, checking sightlines, maintaining the bubble of safety he's built around his daughter. As they drive away, Damien sees Ren through the tinted windows, serving coffee to early morning customers. She moves with the same careful attention she showed Ivy, and he finds himself studying her movements, cataloging details. The efficient grace of her hands, the way she leans in to hear soft-spoken orders, the strength in her shoulders as she lifts supplies. Ivy taps his arm, drawing his attention back. She signs about the rhythm game, her face glowing with remembered joy. Damien makes a mental note to have LED keychains ordered, different colors, various patterns. Anything to keep that happiness alive in his daughter's eyes. The city slides past their windows, the rain washing everything clean. In the cocoon of the car, Damien pulls out his tablet, reviewing security protocols for the evening ahead. Background checks are already running on Ren Calloway. Standard procedure, necessary precaution. His fingers hover over the screen, tracing the patterns of his empire, while his mind lingers on the gentler patterns of light and touch he witnessed in the park. Ivy leans against him, her small hand finding his, and signs a question about time. How long until evening? Damien shows her his watch, helps her count the hours. The paper boat peeks from her pocket, slightly crumpled but intact. A symbol of connection that transcends the barriers he's built around their lives. His phone buzzes with business demands, but Damien allows himself another moment of quiet, watching his daughter's face as she practices the signs Ren taught her. In their world of calculated risks and measured responses, this morning feels like a gamble of a different kind. One where the stakes aren't measured in territory or power, but in the possibility of something he'd thought beyond reach. A chance for Ivy to have more than just safety, to have understanding. The private elevator glides upward, smooth and silent, carrying Ren to Damien's penthouse. Her reflection in the polished steel shows a woman trying not to fidget with her messenger bag, trying not to count the floors as they tick by. When the doors open, she steps into another world. Marble floors spread before her, cool and gleaming in the evening light. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame the city like a living painting, countless lights twinkling against the dark. A grand piano commands one corner of the vast space, its ebony surface reflecting the cityscape. Movement catches her eye. Ivy, lying under the piano, her small hand pressed against one of its legs. The child's eyes are closed in concentration, feeling for vibrations that might tell her stories the rest of the world hears. Ren sets down her bag and approaches slowly, making sure her footsteps create enough vibration for Ivy to notice. The girl's eyes open, and her face lights up with recognition. Ren kneels beside the piano, tapping its frame in a simple rhythm. "Want to play a game?" she signs, demonstrating each movement with careful precision. Ivy nods eagerly, scooting closer. Ren taps out a pattern, 3 short, 1 long, and pairs it with the sign for home. They repeat it together, Ivy's fingers following the rhythm perfectly. Next comes safe. 2 taps, pause, 2 taps. Father becomes a rolling pattern that makes Ivy giggle. Light is quick and bright, like stars blinking. From the doorway, Damien watches. His presence fills the space without overwhelming it, a careful balance of power held in check. When Ivy beckons him over, he joins them, his expensive suit incongruous against the floor as he attempts to copy Ren's signs. His fingers are stiff, uncertain. Without thinking, Ren reaches for his hands. The moment of contact sends electricity through both of them. She adjusts his angles, showing him how to make each sign flow naturally, trying to ignore the warmth of his skin against hers. "Like this," she murmurs, guiding his movements. Relaxed, but precise. His eyes lock onto hers, intense and unreadable. Later, they migrate to the kitchen island. Ivy clutches a mug of cocoa, marshmallows bobbing on the surface. Damien's steel thermos likely holds something stronger. Ren wraps her hands around her own mug, letting the warmth ground her. Want you to work with Ivy full-time," Damien says, his voice low and controlled. "Communication aid and guardian. You'll have an apartment on a secure floor, complete medical coverage, salary generous enough to make it worth your while." Ren sets her mug down carefully. "I have conditions." Something flickers in Damien's eyes, surprise perhaps, or respect. He nods for her to continue. "I won't be paid to lie," she states firmly. "Not to Ivy, not to you, not to anyone. I won't be touched without explicit consent by anyone, and Ivy stays away from violence. No exceptions." The silence stretches between them. Ivy watches their faces intently, reading the tension even if she can't hear the words. "Agreed," Damien says finally. "All of it." Ren pulls a whiteboard from her bag, along with several colored markers. "Then let's start with structure. 3 sessions this week, morning and evening." She writes out the schedule where Ivy can see it, using different colors to mark different activities. Ivy claps in excitement, adding her own doodles to the margins of the schedule. Damien's expression softens as he watches his daughter, the hardness in his eyes melting away. The lesson continues until nearly midnight. Ren gathers her things, surprised by how quickly the time has passed. The penthouse feels different now, still imposing, but with pockets of warmth where Ivy's presence softens the edges. At the private elevator, Damien insists on having a guard escort her out. The night air hits her face as she exits the building, crisp and cool. A black sedan idles at the curb too long to be casual. One of Damien's guards, Marcus, she thinks he called himself, steps closer to her, his hand moving subtly toward his concealed weapon. The sedan pulls away slowly, disappearing into the night traffic. Ren shivers, telling herself it's just nerves, just her imagination working overtime in this new world she's stepped into. She clutches her bag closer, feeling the weight of the whiteboard inside, covered in Ivy's colorful additions. Marcus stays with her until she reaches her car, his eyes scanning the street continuously. The parking garage feels cavernous at this hour, their footsteps echoing off concrete walls. Only when she's safely inside her vehicle does he step back, watching as she drives away. The city streets are quieter now, most windows dark. Ren's mind replays the evening, the way Ivy's face lit up during their games, how Damien's hands felt as she corrected his signs, the weight of unspoken things in the air between them. She thinks about the apartment waiting for her, about the new life being offered. At a red light, she pulls out the business card Damien gave her, embossed with his private number. The streetlight catches the raised letters, making them gleam. In her rearview mirror, she sees another black car, too far back to identify. It might be following her, might just be heading the same direction. Her fingers tighten on the steering wheel as she makes an unplanned turn, just to be sure. The afternoon sun beats down on the food cart as Ren serves her last customer. She wipes her hands on her apron, mind already on her upcoming session with Ivy. The alley behind the cart offers a shortcut to her car, a route she's taken hundreds of times before. Two men materialize from the shadows. Their suits are expensive but rumpled, their smiles sharp and cold. Ren's heart thunders as they block her path. "The ledger key," one demands, stepping closer. "What did the boss hire you for?" Ren backs away, her shoulders hitting rough brick. "I don't know what you're talking about." The second man reaches for her arm. "Let's try this conversation somewhere private." A black SUV screeches to a halt at the alley's entrance. The driver, Marcus, Damien's head of security, steps out, his presence radiating controlled menace. The men retreat, their movements casual but deliberate. "We'll ask again," the first one calls over his shoulder. "Soon." Marcus escorts Ren to the vehicle, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. Inside the car, her hands shake as she texts Damien. The elevator ride to the penthouse feels endless. When the doors open, Damien is waiting, his expression thunderous. Ivy sits at the piano with the tutor, blissfully unaware of the tension. "You knew," Ren accuses quietly. "You knew they were watching me." Damien guides her to his study, closing the door. "They watch everyone who comes near me. I had security in place before you even left last night." "That's not good enough." Ren's voice trembles with anger and fear. "I need to know what I'm walking into. What ledger? Why me?" "My enemies see you with Ivy. They assume you're more than a teacher." Damien runs a hand through his hair, a rare display of frustration. "I won't apologize for protecting you, but we can adjust procedures." He outlines the new rules. Text chains for arrival and departure, varying routes to the building, no predictable patterns. He removes a small jewelry box from his desk. A GPS charm. Ivy will think it's a gift. The silver pendant catches the light. "Wear it always." Ren holds the necklace, feeling its weight. She's already in too deep to back out now, and more importantly, Ivy needs her. "I'll take the job permanently," she says, "but I'm adding conditions." Damien's eyebrows rise slightly, but he nods. Ivy's routine comes first, no disruptions unless absolutely necessary. Ren's voice grows stronger. "And any security action near her follows my lead for de-escalation. I won't have her scared in her own home." To her surprise, Damien responds in sign. "Understand. Promise." His movements are clearer now, practiced. He turns to Marcus, who stands quietly by the door. The whole team learns basic signs. Priority. The afternoon lesson becomes something softer, deliberate in its normalcy. Ren sets out Ivy's favorite apple slices and cheese, arranged in the precise pattern the child prefers. They spend 15 minutes on visual phonics, Ivy tracing letter shapes in the air while Ren demonstrates mouth positions. The last 10 minutes are for shared stories. Ivy's hands fly as she describes her morning, the pigeon she saw on the balcony, the new song her piano teacher showed her, the way sunlight made patterns through her crystal wind chimes. Damien watches from his desk, pretending to work but absorbing every detail. They share dinner in the penthouse kitchen, Ivy insisting on helping to stir the pasta sauce. The domesticity of it feels surreal after the afternoon's threats. But Ren sees how these moments anchor Ivy, give her stability. Later, in her small, rented studio, Ren packs a single bag, The space looks bare already, most of her books and kitchen items donated or stored. She sets an alarm for sunrise, when she'll move into the secure suite next to Ivy's room. Her mother's boxes sit unopened in the corner, delivered last week after the lawyer finally cleared the estate. Wren touches one briefly, wondering if the mysterious ledger has something to do with their contents. She'll deal with that tomorrow. She tells herself this move is for Ivy, the child who lights up at simple paper boats, who needs consistency and understanding. It's not for Damien, who watches Wren like she's something precious and dangerous all at once. Not for the way his hands looked forming the sign for promise, or how his eyes follow her movements when he thinks she's not looking. The GPS charm glints on her nightstand. Wren clasps it around her neck, the metal warm against her skin. Outside her window, the city hums with its usual nighttime rhythm. Somewhere in that maze of streets, two men are probably reporting their failed attempt to whoever sent them. In the penthouse, she knows Damien is likely still awake, monitoring security feeds, making calls, moving pieces on an invisible chessboard. Ivy sleeps surrounded by her treasured wind chimes and nightlights, safe in her carefully constructed world. Wren sets out clothes for tomorrow, practical items suited for moving boxes and teaching lessons. Her sign language books are already packed, along with Ivy's favorite story about a brave princess who saves herself. The room feels like a cocoon about to break open, everything on the edge of change. Her phone buzzes with a text from Damien. Car arrives 6 a.m., Marcus driving. A moment later, another message. Thank you, for Ivy. Wren doesn't respond, but she saves both messages. Tomorrow she steps fully into their world, with all its shadows and complications. Tonight she allows herself one last evening of pretending she's just a food cart worker who happens to know sign language, who hasn't already given her heart to a silent child, and possibly, dangerously, to the man who would burn down cities to keep them safe. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows as Wren unlocks her new suite on the secure floor. The space breathes quiet luxury, soft grays and blues, plush carpets that muffle footsteps, and a sweeping view of the river that curves like silver ribbon below. She traces her fingers along smooth walls, still trying to process how quickly her life has changed. On the largest wall, she carefully tapes up a detailed schedule, color-coded and clear. Structure will be their anchor here, breakfast lessons at 7 when Ivy is most alert. Schoolwork at 9 after her morning routine settles her mind. Movement therapy at 1 when natural energy peaks. Story hour at 6, winding down into evening calm. The timeline stretches across the wall like a map to their future, ensuring no moment gets lost between the chapters of their evolving life together. She unpacks methodically, teaching materials arranged by skill level, sensory tools sorted into labeled bins, favorite books aligned on low shelves where Ivy can reach them. Each item has its place, creating the predictable environment Ivy needs to thrive. The morning passes in a blur of organization and orientation. Wren learns the security protocols, memorizes access codes, and meets the house staff who move through the penthouse like silent shadows. She's just finished setting up a small reading nook when her phone buzzes. The message from Marcus is terse. Warehouse 7 hit, boss engaging. Hours crawl by with no updates. Wren keeps Ivy occupied with puzzles and signing games, but her own attention keeps drifting to her phone. When darkness falls, heavy footsteps in the hallway signal Damien's return. He appears in the doorway, suit jacket crumpled, a dark stain spreading across one sleeve. His hands shake slightly, barely noticeable, except to someone trained to read body language. But Ivy notices everything. Her eyes lock onto the red stain, and her breathing shifts into quick, shallow gasps. Wren moves instantly, positioning herself between Ivy and the door. She applies firm, steady pressure to Ivy's shoulders, the deep squeeze that helps ground her when the world becomes too much. Her other hand taps a slow, consistent rhythm on Ivy's arm, giving her something steady to focus on. Once Ivy's breathing evens out, Wren turns to Damien. Her signs are sharp and clear. No visible injuries around Ivy. Clean up first. Text ahead so she can prepare. Each rule designed to protect Ivy's sense of safety, to keep violence from seeping into her carefully structured world. Damien watches intently, nodding at each point. Without argument, he backs away and disappears down the hall. When he returns 20 minutes later, he's showered and changed, no trace of blood or battle remaining. The transformation is striking, from warrior to father, in the space of a few closed doors. The evening settles into their usual routine. During signing practice, Ivy puzzles over the sign for family, her small hands forming and reforming the shape. Wren demonstrates slowly, fingers interlocked, hands moving in, a circle that encompasses everyone present. She watches as Damien practices the motion, his large hands gentle and determined until the movement becomes natural, until the meaning seeps into muscle memory. As bedtime approaches, Ren strings fairy lights along the hallway leading to Ivy's room. The soft glow creates a path of light, transforming the nighttime journey into something magical rather than frightening. They develop a ritual. Lights on, 3 deep breaths together, the sign for safe repeated like a prayer. Ivy drifts off, surrounded by the gentle constellation of fairy lights, her face peaceful in sleep. Ren adjusts the blanket one last time and slips out quietly. On the dim landing, Damien waits. His hands move carefully through signs of gratitude, but his fingers stumble over the more complex motions. Without thinking, Ren steps closer, covering his hands with hers to guide them through the correct shapes. The contact sends electricity through her skin. His hands are warm, calloused in places that speak of weapons rather than paperwork. She steps back quickly, pulse racing at the intimacy of the moment. There's something devastating about watching this powerful man submit to correction, about seeing someone who commands through force choose to learn gentleness instead. Obedience looks different on him, not submission, but a deliberate choice to bend, to reshape himself around the needs of those he protects. They stand in the soft glow of the fairy lights, the silence heavy with unspoken things. Damien's hands are still raised slightly, as if remembering the shape of her guidance. The moment stretches between them like a thread pulled taut, vibrating with possibility. Down the hall, Ivy sleeps peacefully in her cocoon of light and routine. The schedule on Ren's wall waits to guide them through tomorrow. Outside, the river reflects city lights like scattered stars, while somewhere in the darkness, enemies plot their next move. But here, in this quiet space between day and night, they are just 3 people learning to be a family, one sign at a time. 2 days blur past in a rhythm of lessons and routines before Ren decides it's time to expand Ivy's world beyond the penthouse walls. The children's section of the public library sits quiet and empty in the pre-opening hours, sunlight streaming through tall windows onto colorful reading nooks. 2 of Damien's men take positions outside, while another sweeps the interior before nodding the all clear. Ivy's eyes widen at the shelves of books, her fingers trailing along spines as Ren guides her to a corner table. They've been practicing for this, a special board game Ren designed using colored tiles that light up in patterns. Each sequence corresponds to a signed command, building Ivy's vocabulary through play. Remember, Ren signs, demonstrating the rules. Green means add a new word, blue means repeat the last sign, and red means start over. Ivy nods eagerly, already, reaching for the tiles. The morning light shifts across the floor as they play, Ivy's confidence growing with each successful round. She's so absorbed in the game that she doesn't notice the librarian approach until the woman speaks. "Ren? I thought that was you." Mrs. Chen smiles warmly, her gray hair neat in its bun. "I've been meaning to contact you about some boxes your mother left in storage. We're renovating the basement next month, and..." Ren's hands pause mid-sign. Her mother had died 3 years ago, leaving behind more questions than answers. She hadn't known about any boxes. Turning to Ivy, she signs, "Would you like to get them after lunch? We can make it part of our day." Ivy brightens at the structured plan, adding her own suggestion to include ice cream. The morning flows into afternoon as they retrieve the dusty boxes, 5 of them, each labeled with her mother's precise handwriting. Back at the penthouse, Ren turns it into an activity for Ivy's ongoing family story project, spreading materials across the living room floor. "Let's make a timeline," she signs, showing Ivy how to arrange photos and memorabilia in chronological order. This is how we keep memories safe. While Ivy carefully glues photos into her scrapbook, Ren sorts through the boxes. Old receipts, greeting cards, and forgotten trinkets tell fragments of her mother's life. At the bottom of the 3rd box, wrapped in tissue paper, she finds a tarnished silver locket. The metal feels warm in her palm as she examines it. Something about the hinge catches her attention. It doesn't quite align. Pressing gently, she discovers a hidden compartment containing a tiny micro SD card. Her heart beats faster, but she keeps her movements casual, not wanting to alarm Ivy. They continue crafting until dinner, through their usual evening routine of stories and signs. Only after helping Ivy with her bedtime ritual does Ren retreat to her suite with the card. Her laptop whirs to life, the card reader accepting the tiny piece of plastic that might hold answers about her mother's past. Files pop up, partial ledgers, spreadsheets with dates and code names. One name appears repeatedly, DeLaurent. Next to it, logistics notes and references to shipments, routes, payments. A particular entry makes her blood run cold. A handler's note about bringing candy to the silent one after therapy sessions. The dates align with Ivy's early intervention programs. Her fingers hover over the keyboard, mind racing. This needs to go to Damien immediately. But before she can stand, her phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. The text is simple. Bring the locket to St. Michael's Chapel by midnight. Come alone. A photo follows. Ivy at the library window that morning, her small hand pressed against the glass. The message continues. The little one pays if you don't comply. Wren's hands shake as she scribbles a note. Going to chapel. Urgent. She doesn't add details about the threat. Against Ivy, knowing Damien's reaction would bring exactly the kind of violence she's trying to prevent. The paper slides under his study door, silently. She pockets the locket, choosing comfortable shoes and dark clothing. The hallway stands empty and quiet, Ivy's nightlight casting a gentle glow under her door. Wren moves like a shadow, years of early morning food cart setups having taught her how to step silently. The elevator descends smoothly, each floor bringing her closer to whatever waits at the chapel. Her phone stays dark. No more messages, no demands beyond the first. The weight of the locket seems to grow heavier with each passing moment. Inside her pocket, her fingers trace the shape of the jewelry that has suddenly transformed their carefully structured world into something dangerous. The micro SD card sits safely hidden in her room, but its contents echo in her mind. Names, dates, connections she doesn't fully understand, but knows are important enough to threaten a child's safety. The lobby stretches before her, the night guard focused on his monitors. She's memorized the shift changes, knows exactly when attention will drift. 3 minutes until the exterior camera sweep, 2 minutes to cross the plaza unseen. Wren touches the small GPS charm Damien gave her, wondering if she should remove it. But no, if something goes wrong, someone needs to know where to find her. She takes a deep breath, remembering how she taught Ivy to handle fear. Count the steady things. Focus on what you can control. The lobby door opens silently. Night air wraps around her like a cloak as she steps out. The river-scented breeze carrying the distant sound of traffic. St. Michael's Chapel rises ahead, its spire a dark finger against the city sky. The chapel's stone walls loom before Wren, its narrow windows dark against the night sky. She knows this place from Damien's rare mentions. A memorial to Ivy's mother, kept pristine but private. Her fingers trace the heavy wooden door, pushing it open just enough to slip inside. The interior smells wrong. Gun oil mingles with old incense, and the shadows shift in ways shadows shouldn't. Her heart pounds as she takes 3 careful steps down the center aisle. That's far enough! A voice emerges from behind the third pew. The card. Now! 2 men rise from the shadows, then 3 more. Their weapons catch dim light from the stained glass. Wren keeps her hands visible, forcing her voice steady. I need to find it, she says, making a show of patting her pockets. Give me a moment. Her phone sits in her palm, concealed by her jacket sleeve. Muscle memory guides her fingers. 2 periods, then him. The emergency code Damien insisted she memorize. Send. Taking too long, one man growls, stepping closer. Search her! The smell of gun oil grows stronger. Wren's fingers brush the locket, but she deliberately fumbles past it, buying seconds. It's here somewhere, I swear. The lights cut without. Warning. The chapel plunges into absolute darkness, then erupts in muzzle flashes and thundering gunfire. Wren drops and rolls behind a pew, counting positions from the flashes. Years of signing in low light with Ivy have trained her eyes to track movement in darkness. A figure in tactical gear reaches her position. One of Damien's men, she recognizes the shoulder patch catching streetlight through the windows. Her hands move in precise signs. Left side, stairs, 2 shooters. He nods, relaying through his radio in clipped whispers. More guards flow in like smoke. Glass shatters somewhere above. Through the chaos, Wren maps the firefight in her mind. 3 by the altar, 2 in the choir loft, 1 trying to circle behind. She signs locations as she spots them, creating a silent network of intel that spreads through Damien's team. Then Damien himself arrives, and the tide turns instantly. He moves with lethal precision, each action ending in stillness or screams. The shooting dies in phases until only rough breathing and the click of weapons being secured remain. He finds her behind the pew, dropping to one knee. Fury and relief wore in his expression, making his features sharp in the emergency lights now flooding the chapel. His hands check her for injuries with clinical efficiency. "I'm okay," she whispers, pressing the locket into his palm. But there's more. The card inside, it has files, records, about Ivy's therapy sessions. His fingers close around the locket. "Secure the scene," he orders his men. "Full sweep, then forensics. I want everything." They return to the penthouse in armored vehicles, Wren's mind racing through the ledger entries she'd seen. In Damien's private office, a tech specialist extracts data from the micro SD card, breaking through basic encryption to reveal more files. The documents paint an ugly picture. Payment records to someone with access to Ivy's early intervention program. Therapy notes sold to rivals. Schedules that perfectly align with tonight's ambush. Years of betrayal laid bare in columns of numbers and code names. "The DeLawrence," Damien says, voice tight with controlled rage. "They've been watching her since she was 3, using her sessions to map our movements." Wren studies the dates, remembering the handler's notes about Candy. They had someone inside, someone who knew her schedule, her responses, her needs. "Had," Damien corrects softly. His phone appears in his hand, texts flying to unseen recipients. The internal purge begins without fanfare. No gunfire, no screams, just quiet efficiency as years of carefully placed traitors disappear into the pre-dawn hours. "Take Ivy to the safe suite," he tells her. "Stay with her. The security protocols we discussed last week are active." The safe suite sits behind reinforced walls, with its own air system and enough supplies for weeks. Wren finds Ivy still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the night's violence. With gentle hands, she lifts the child and carries her to the secure room. Ivy stirs only slightly as Wren settles them both on the wide bed. The room's soft lighting system mimics dawn, keeping their schedule as normal as possible. Wren arranges Ivy's favorite blanket around them, maintaining the routines that make her world predictable and safe. Outside their door, Damien takes up position in the hallway. Through the security feed, Wren watches him stand guard as the night slowly releases its grip. He doesn't pace or fidget. He simply waits, a sentinel between his family and the world that would harm them. The sun rises gradually, painting the safe room in warm colors through specially designed light panels. Wren holds Ivy close, thinking about the ledgers, the betrayals, the long game their enemies played. But mostly she thinks about this: a dangerous man standing watch, a child sleeping safely, and the strange family they've become. Ivy's breathing remains steady against her side. In sleep, her hands occasionally move in half-formed signs, parts of dreams Wren has learned to recognize. Tonight they shape familiar patterns: home, safe, father, light. The very first signs they learned together under the piano, now woven into her unconscious language. Through the security feed, Wren watches Damien maintain his vigil as dawn approaches. His shoulders stay straight, his attention unwavering. He's positioned himself to see both ends of the hallway while keeping the safe room door in his direct line of sight. Every few minutes, his hands move in those same signs: home, safe, family, light. Practicing even now, even here, in the quiet space between night and day. Morning seeps through the safe room's light panels, painting warm stripes across the bed where Wren and Ivy dozed fitfully. Wren's muscles ache from holding still, keeping Ivy's sleep undisturbed. She watches the clock tick to their usual wake-up time, maintaining the schedule that anchors Ivy's world. Following their cherished ritual, Wren activates the room's lighting sequence. Ivy stirs as the brightness increases gradually, her small hands already moving in sleep signs. Wren taps her shoulder gently. 1, 2, 3, their signal for morning. 3 breaths, Wren signs when Ivy's eyes open. They inhale together, Ivy's hand on Wren's chest to feel the rhythm. Then Wren makes the sign for safe, watching Ivy mirror it back with sleep-clumsy fingers. The safe suite's kitchenette is compact but fully stocked. Wren pulls out pancake ingredients, knowing routine matters more than ever after disruption. She lets Ivy stir the batter, adding chocolate chips in careful rows, their own morning mathematics lesson disguised as breakfast. Through the security feed, she watches Damien pace the penthouse's main floor. His inner circle arrives in waves: the head of security, the intelligence chief, 3 trusted captains. They gather around the dining table now covered in tablets and papers, faces grim as they work to identify the betrayal's source. Ivy hums while she eats, feeling the vibration in her throat. She taps her fork against the plate in precise patterns, and Wren responds with matching taps. their private Morse code of comfort. The morning feels almost normal until Wren sees Damien's expression change through the monitor. His face transforms in stages: recognition, disbelief, rage, and finally that terrible emptiness that means someone won't see tomorrow. The name comes through her security tablet. Marcus Reeves, Logistics Lieutenant, 8 years of service. The man who always carried butterscotch candies for Ivy. Wren remembers him kneeling to Ivy's height, offering treats wrapped in gold foil, how he'd wait until she signed "thank you" before giving them. All that time, he'd been studying her patterns, her responses, her vulnerabilities, turning a child's trust into tactical data for the highest bidder. By afternoon, Reeves is in custody. Wren watches the security feed as he's brought to the underground level. She doesn't need audio to read the confession in his slumped shoulders, the way he nods repeatedly, mouth moving in what must be names and dates. The DeLaurents have been patient, methodical, even hiring a signing interpreter from Ivy's old therapy center to analyze her communication style. The knowledge burns like acid in Wren's throat. Every session, every breakthrough, every moment of trust had been weaponized. They'd mapped Ivy's patterns to predict her father's movements, using a deaf child's routine as a skeleton key to her father's empire. Damien appears in the safe room doorway as sunset approaches. His voice is controlled, but Wren sees the tremor in his hands as he signs. Pack for 1 week, remote location until it's clean. The dismissal stings more than Wren expects. She understands the tactical necessity. Ivy needs distance from the danger, and Damien needs space to unleash the violence building behind his eyes. But something else lurks in his rigid posture, the old fear that he poisons everything he touches. "We'll be ready in an hour," Wren says, keeping her voice professional. She doesn't mention how her chest aches, how the word temporary feels like a lie. Instead, she focuses on packing what Ivy needs to feel secure. The favorite blanket goes in first, the one with different textures sewn in patches that help Ivy self-regulate. Then the rhythm board for their morning games, the fairy lights that mark safe paths, and the whiteboard where they track time visually. Wren adds Ivy's comfort items: the worn stuffed rabbit, the paper boat from their first meeting, the photo album they'd started together. Ivy watches the packing with growing concern. Her hands flutter in anxious questions. Where? Why? Wrong? Adventure, Wren signs back, keeping her movements light and playful. Special trip, 1 week. She adds extra emphasis to the timeline, making it concrete. 2 black SUVs wait in the private garage, engines humming. Guards load their bags while Wren helps Ivy settle into her car seat, arranging the blanket just so. Through the tinted windows, she sees Damien standing by the elevator, face carved from stone as he watches them prepare to leave. The garage exit ramp feels like a descent into uncertainty. Ivy taps Wren's arm, hands shaping the question that hurts most. Back soon? Wren summons her brightest smile, the one she uses for story time and morning greetings. 1 week, she signs, hoping her fingers don't betray her doubt. Adventure first, then home. Ivy seems to accept this, turning to watch the city lights blur past their window. She traces patterns on the glass, leaving finger marks like Morse code. In the growing dark, her reflection shows complete trust in whatever comes next. The lead SUV cuts through traffic with professional precision, their backup vehicle maintaining perfect distance. Wren keeps one eye on the road and one on Ivy, monitoring for signs of distress. But Ivy remains calm, soothed by the car's motion and Wren's presence beside her. Buildings give way to suburbs, then to darker stretches of highway. Wren thinks of Damien standing alone in that garage, of all the words unsaid between them. She wonders if 1 week means the time needed for violence, or the time he needs to convince himself they're safer without him. The safe house emerges from the tree line like a forgotten cabin, all weathered wood and deep porches. Pine needles carpet the gravel drive, muffling their arrival. Inside, the rooms smell of cedar and dust, waiting to be lived in. Wren moves with purpose, transforming the strange space into something familiar. She strings the fairy lights first, creating the safe paths Ivy knows from home. The gentle glow turns stark corners into soft edges, marking doorways and hallways with a trail of comfort. In the kitchen, their schedule finds its place on the refrigerator, the visual anchor that helps Ivy understand where she is in each day. Look, Wren signs, showing Ivy how the morning light makes patterns through the trees. They create a game of it, counting shadows and signing names for the shapes they see. Ivy's shoulders slowly relax as routine takes hold. The yard becomes their morning classroom, fenced and watched by alert guards who maintain a respectful distance. Wren teaches Ivy new signs for pinecone, river, and bird nest. They collect treasures for their nature table: smooth stones, interesting leaves, a perfect feather. Inside, lessons continue with reading practice and number games on the rhythm board. Each night, after Ivy sleeps beneath her familiar blanket, Wren composes her update to Damien. She uses their agreed code: green for calm, blue for progress, yellow for anxiety. She keeps the messages clinical, professional, though her fingers want to add more. How Ivy asked about him today. How she traced his photo before bed. His replies come like clockwork, but they're all business. Now. Update received. Continue schedule. Maintain protocol. Each response feels more distant than the last, as if he's deliberately erasing the warmth that had grown between them. Wren tells herself it shouldn't matter. She's here for Ivy, not for the way Damien's hands looked practicing signs in the dim hallway, not for the trust he'd shown when following her lead with his daughter. On the fourth evening, everything shatters. Wren's phone buzzes with urgent messages from her few contacts in the city. There's a video circulating, security footage from the chapel, edited with surgical precision. In the grainy frames, her movements look calculated instead of desperate. Her text warning to Damien appears as a signal to attackers. Even her signs to the guard seem to direct fire rather than help. She watches it 3 times, stomach turning. It's masterfully done, transforming every protective action into betrayal. She can see how it would convince anyone who didn't know better, anyone who already distrusted an outsider's presence in Damien's inner circle. The secure line rings at midnight. Wren answers with Ivy finally asleep in the next room, fairy lights casting a gentle glow under her door. Damien's voice comes through like winter. The video evidence is clear, he says, each word precise and terrible. You're relieved of your position. The guards will withdraw within the hour. Do not attempt contact. Damien, I would never... She starts, but the line goes dead. The silence that follows feels absolute. Wren stands in the dark kitchen, phone cold in her hand, mind racing through implications. Without guards, without resources, without explanation, just exile into the night, as if every moment of trust had been a lie. Ivy appears in the doorway, blanket wrapped around her shoulders. She must have felt Wren's distress through the floorboards, attuned as she is to vibration and change. Her small hands shape the question. Father angry? Wren kneels, gathering Ivy close. Through the window, she sees the guard rotation changing, but instead of new men arriving, the current team is packing up their gear. One by one, the exterior lights click off. The porch goes dark. The driveway floods with shadow. We stay together, Wren signs, making each movement clear and strong despite her shaking hands. Ivy burrows closer, and Wren strokes her hair, mind spinning through options. They can't leave. The road might be watched, and Ivy needs stability. They can't call for help. Anyone could be compromised. In the growing dark, Ivy's stomach growls. She refused dinner earlier, sensing the tension in the house, and now Wren regrets not insisting. She starts to sign hungry, but Ivy's attention is fixed on the window, where headlights sweep the trees as the last guard vehicle pulls away. The house creaks, settling into silence. Wren holds Ivy tighter, feeling terribly exposed. The fairy lights seem too bright now, marking their location like a beacon. But she won't unplug them. They're Ivy's pathway to security, the one constant they've maintained since leaving home. Home. The word aches. 4 days ago, they had schedule and purpose and trust. Now they sit on the safe house floor, abandoned and unmarked, while somewhere in the city, Damien lets others believe the worst of her. The professional distance in his messages makes horrible sense now. He'd been pulling away, preparing for this break. Ivy's hands move against Wren's shirt, spelling out scared in small motions. Wren pulls back enough to sign properly. Together, safe. She puts all her certainty into the movements, even as her ears strain at every night sound from the woods. The quiet feels paper-thin, ready to tear. But Wren keeps her breathing steady, her signs clear and calm. She's all Ivy has right now, and she will not let fear show in her hands or face. They stay there on the floor, wrapped in Ivy's blanket, while the darkness settles deeper around their little pool of fairy light. The clock edges toward midnight when Wren catches movement through the trees, the faintest suggestion of vehicles moving without lights. Her heart stammers, but her hands stay steady as she flicks off the interior lamps, plunging them into protective darkness. Game time, she signs to Ivy, keeping her movements clear even in the dim. They've practiced this. Ivy knows exactly what to do. The child slides into her warm coat while Wren retrieves the large rolling laundry bin from the utility room. It's their secret fort, lined with blankets and just big enough for Ivy to curl inside. Remember how we play? Wren signs. Count your heartbeats. Breathe with me. She demonstrates the slow, quiet breathing they've rehearsed, and Ivy mirrors her perfectly. Such a brave girl, treating danger like a game she can win. The vehicles stop at the edge of the property. Wren helps Ivy into the bin, tucking the blankets around her small form. Stay still like a little mouse, she signs. And Ivy nods, already counting her heartbeats the way they practiced. Boot steps crunch on gravel, then thud against wooden stairs. Wren's mind races through the house layout, back door, side windows, the path to the trees. The front door splinters inward with a crack that vibrates through the floorboards. Moving silently, Wren grabs a heavy ceramic mug from the counter. Footsteps spread through the house. At least 3 men, maybe more. She waits until they're close, then hurls the mug down the hallway. It shatters with a satisfying crash. Check it! A voice hisses. 2 sets of boots move toward the noise. Wren seizes her moment. She rolls the bin toward the back door, keeping her movements smooth to prevent any sound that might startle Ivy. The child remains perfectly still inside, following their practiced routine with complete trust. They make it onto the back porch, just as orange light begins to flicker in the windows. Smoke curls into the night sky. They're burning the safe house, destroying evidence. Wren pushes faster, guiding the bin down the wooden ramp they'd used for deliveries. The tree line seems impossibly far. Wren's arms burn as she maintains a steady pace, using the bin's bulk to break through the underbrush. Ivy stays quiet and still, exactly as they practiced, while Wren navigates by starlight and memory. They follow the river's sound, putting distance between themselves and the growing flames behind them. After an hour of careful movement, Wren's legs shake with exhaustion. She finds a massive fallen log, its root system creating a natural shelter, and eases the bin into the hollow. You can come out now, she signs, helping Ivy stretch her cramped muscles. The child's breathing is quick but controlled. She's scared, but managing it, using their calming techniques. Wren pulls out her phone, sends their emergency code again. 2 periods. Him. No signal bars appear. They're too deep in the hollow, too far from any tower. Dawn begins to lighten the eastern sky when soft footsteps approach their hiding place. A woman emerges from the brush, hands raised in the universal gesture of peace. Wren's blood runs cold. She recognizes that face from Ivy's old therapy clinic, the interpreter who used to praise Ivy's progress while reporting every detail to the DeLorens. The woman's lips move carefully, ensuring Wren can read every word. The child is leverage. You'll come with us if you want her to live. Wren's mind races through options, finding none. She nods slowly, buying precious seconds as she pretends to adjust Ivy's scarf. Her fingers slip the GPS charm deeper into the child's pocket, praying it hasn't been damaged in their flight. She taps 3 distinct rhythms against Ivy's wrist, their signal, their secret language of touch and time. Ivy's eyes widen slightly in recognition, but she keeps her face carefully blank. Such a clever, brave girl. More men emerge from the trees. They separate Wren from Ivy roughly, securing Wren's wrists with zip ties that bite into her skin. She watches helplessly as they lift Ivy, carrying her toward a different vehicle than the van they shove Wren into. The convoy starts moving just as sunrise paints the treetops gold. Wren sits in the dark van, wrists aching, mind focused on that GPS charm in Ivy's pocket. 3 rhythm taps, their signal for help coming, for trust and patience, for the promise that separation isn't forever. She remembers teaching Ivy that code, turning it into a game with lights and taps and trust. Now it's their lifeline, their thread of hope as the vehicles wind toward the city. Wren forces herself to breathe slowly, to stay clear-headed. She won't let fear cloud her judgment, not when Ivy needs her to think, to plan, to find a way back to each other. The van hits a pothole, making Wren wince as the zip ties cut deeper. She focuses on the pain, uses it to stay present and alert. Through the partition, separating her from the front seats, she catches fragments of conversation. Something about a warehouse, about making calls, about waiting for confirmation. Wren catalogs every detail, every turn, every sound. She thinks of Ivy in the other vehicle, probably counting heartbeats like they practiced, trusting in their signal and their bond. The city skyline appears through the van's tiny window, familiar buildings growing larger as they approach. Wren flexes her hands carefully, testing the zip ties give, preparing for whatever comes next. The city traffic blurs past as Damien paces in his command center, analysts working frantically at screens around him. His phone buzzes, another dead end, another false lead. The weight of his mistake crushes his chest. He'd pushed away the one person who truly protected Ivy, let doubt poison his judgment. Sir, one of his tech specialists waves him over. Traffic cam audio from near the safe house, time-stamped just before the attack. The recording crackles through speakers, men laughing, discussing payment for doctoring footage. Boss'll never know we spliced it frame by frame, made the woman look guilty as sin. Damien's hands curl into fists. He'd allowed them to manipulate him, to separate him from Ren and Ivy. The rage builds cold and precise as he turns to his security chief. Find them, now! The traitors are brought in within the hour. Damien doesn't waste time with questions. He puts bullets in their heads himself, each shot echoing his failure to trust Ren. He turns to his gathered crews, voice like ice. Find those vans. Find that warehouse. Bring them home. Whatever it takes. His phone chirps, the GPS charm's last signal, pinging from an industrial district near the river. Damien studies the map, calculating angles and approaches. He opens a secure channel to the power company he owns. Be ready to cut power to grid section E7 on my signal. Across the city, Ren sits in a cold warehouse office, watching guard patterns through the dirty windows. 2 men by the loading dock, rotating every hour. 3 more patrol the upper catwalks. The interpreter moves between rooms, checking on Ivy in one space and returning to taunt Ren in another. Ren forces her signing to be clumsy, dropping basic forms she mastered months ago. The interpreter's frustration grows with each mistake, bringing her closer to correct the motions. No, like this. She leans in, demonstrating proper hand placement. Perfect. Ren drives her head forward, connecting with the woman's nose. Blood sprays as she staggers back, but Ren's fingers have already lifted the keycard from her lanyard. The backhand comes fast and hard, snapping Ren's head to the side. You stupid bitch, the interpreter snarls, dabbing at her nose. See how clever you feel when we start the child's retraining. We'll make sure she doesn't scream, wouldn't want to disturb anyone's sleep. Ren tastes blood but keeps her expression neutral, memorizing every detail of her surroundings. The door's hinges need oil. They'll squeak when opened. The fluorescent lights flicker every few minutes, creating patterns of shadow. She counts steps between columns, mapping escape routes in her mind. They separate her from Ivy again, but Ren can hear small movements through the thin wall, her brave girl, waiting for their signal. Ren studies the bolts on the doorframe, the wear patterns on the floor, every detail that might matter in darkness. A deep, mechanical groan echoes through the building. The lights stutter once, twice, then plunge into blackness. Emergency lights kick on, casting sickly green shadows. Sirens begin to wail in the distance, growing closer. Ren recognizes the heavy bootsteps approaching before she sees anyone. Damien's personal squad, moving with practiced precision. She allows herself one small smile. He figured it out. He's coming for them. The interpreter bursts in, fury twisting her features in the emergency lighting. Move her! Now! She grabs Ren's arm roughly. Your boss isn't as smart as he thinks. We planned for this. But Ren hears the fear beneath the bravado. More sirens join the chorus outside, and the boot steps get closer. Gunfire erupts from the loading dock, sharp, controlled bursts that Ren recognizes from the chapel fight. The interpreter drags her toward a back stairwell, but Ren plants her feet, making herself dead weight. Every second she delays is another second for Damien's men to secure the building. The woman's grip tightens painfully. Move, or I'll make sure the child suffers for your stubbornness. Ren stays still, counting heartbeats like she taught Ivy. The bootsteps are closer now, accompanied by the metallic clicks of weapons being readied. She can almost feel Damien's presence, that focused intensity she's come to know so well. The interpreter raises her hand to strike again, but freezes at a sound from above. Glass shatters as figures rappel down from the skylights. More boots thunder up the loading ramp. The woman's face goes pale as she realizes they're surrounded. Ren uses the distraction to drive her shoulder into the interpreter's stomach, sending them both crashing into a stack of boxes. The keycard slips from Ren's sleeve into her bound hands as they struggle. She just needs to reach the door, to get to Ivy before anyone else can. The emergency lights cast strange shadows as men move through the warehouse with military precision. Ren recognizes their formation, a standard Volkov sweep pattern. They're methodically clearing every corner, every shadow, leaving no space for enemies to hide. Through the thin wall, Ren hears Ivy's measured breathing, still calm, still counting heartbeats, still trusting in their signal. The bootsteps grow louder, more purposeful. Damien is close now, bringing with him the promise of safety and retribution. The interpreter tries to pull Ren up, to use her as a shield, but Ren goes limp again, making herself impossible to move. She focuses on the sound of those approaching boots, on Ivy's steady breathing, on the weight of the keycard in her bound hands. Help is coming. They just need to hold on a little longer. The warehouse plunges into darkness as the power dies. Wren pulls Ivy close, her fingers finding the child's shoulders in the black. Years of working with Ivy's heightened senses would now become their salvation. Wren's hands move with practiced precision, signing against Ivy's back in their special touch map language they'd developed during quiet evenings in the penthouse. Forward 4 steps, her fingers tap. Stop. Left. Kneel. Ivy follows each command perfectly, her small body moving with a silence born from years of feeling vibrations instead of hearing them. Around them, confused shouts and stumbling footsteps echo as the De Laurent guards crash into equipment and each other, their eyes useless in the pitch black. Wren guides Ivy's hand to a metal pipe running along the floor. Remember our signal, she thinks fiercely, and feels Ivy's understanding in the way she positions her fingers. 3 distinct taps ring out against the hollow metal, the sound barely audible but pure and clear, traveling up through the building's bones to the rafters above. Their location beacon, disguised as a child's rhythm game. The front doors explode inward with enough force to shake dust from the ceiling. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness as Damien's men pour in, moving with the fluid grace of predators. At their head stands Damien himself, his outline unmistakable to Wren even in shadow. "Second row, behind the crates," Wren calls out softly, pitching her voice to carry just far enough. 3 hostiles, 9 o'clock. Gunfire erupts, muzzle flashes strobing the space. Damien's team moves with mechanical precision, guided by Ivy's continuing tap signal and Wren's whispered intelligence. They clear section after section, pushing the De Laurents back. A scuffle breaks out near them, the interpreter materializing from the shadows, grabbing for Ivy with desperate hands. Wren shields the child with her body, but the woman manages to get a grip on Ivy's coat. "Stop, or I'll—" The interpreter's threat cuts off in a grunt as Wren drives an elbow back into her solar plexus. More gunfire rings out. Wren sees the muzzle flash an instant before Damien throws himself forward, taking the bullet meant for her. Red blooms across his white shirt as he staggers but doesn't fall. "Damien!" Wren grabs his arm, pulling him behind a concrete pillar. His breath comes in sharp pants, but his eyes remain focused, scanning the warehouse. "Catwalk!" he grits out. "Movement!" Wren follows his gaze upward. 2 shadows dart along the elevated walkway, and between them, a smaller figure stumbles along. Ivy. "They're heading for the loading bay exit," Wren says, pressing her hand against Damien's wound. The blood is warm and sticky between her fingers. "Team 2, flank the east exit," Damien barks into his radio. His face is pale but set with iron determination as he pushes away from the pillar. "I'm taking the stairs. You're shot." "I'm moving," he cuts her off, already heading for the metal staircase leading to the catwalk. His steps are steady despite the growing stain on his shoulder. Wren follows, keeping low as more gunfire exchanges above them. The interpreter's voice rings out, high and desperate. "Stay back or we drop her over the edge." Damien takes the stairs 2 at a time, his weapon trained upward. Wren counts Ivy's taps, still steady, still brave, their beacon in the chaos. One of Damien's teams must have restored emergency power because dim red lights flicker to life, casting everything in a hellish glow. The scene above unfolds like a nightmare in slow motion. 2 De Laurent guards drag Ivy between them, the interpreter following close behind. Ivy's feet barely touch the metal grating as they pull her along. Damien reaches the top of the stairs just as Team 2 breaches the far exit. The guards spin, caught between threats. A burst of gunfire lights up the gloom. One guard falls, then the other. The interpreter makes a grab for Ivy, but the girl remembers Wren's lessons. Drop low, make yourself small. Ivy ducks and runs, her small feet sheer on the catwalk as she races toward Wren's outstretched arms. Wren catches her, pulling her close, feeling the wild thunder of her heart. Damien advances on the interpreter, who raises her hands in surrender. His shot is clean, final. He does a last sweep of the area before sagging against a support pillar, the adrenaline clearly fading as blood loss takes its toll. "Medic!" Wren calls out, keeping one arm around Ivy while reaching for Damien with the other. "We need a medic up here." "Secure the perimeter first," Damien orders, though he's swaying slightly. His eyes move between Wren and Ivy, counting fingers and toes, cataloging every scratch and bruise. Only when he's assured himself they're both relatively unharmed does some of the tension leave his frame. Ivy's fingers fly in urgent signs. Father hurt. Wren hurt. "We're okay," Wren signs back, adding the touch map pressure that means safe. Everyone is okay. Teams report in through the radio. Building clear, exit secured, threats neutralized. Damien acknowledges each update, refusing to sit, despite the growing pallor of his face. He keeps his weapon ready, his body between them and the stairs, guardian and protector even while bleeding. Ivy breaks free from Ren to press herself against Damien's legs, her small hands signing against his thigh. Safe. Home. Family. Ren sees the subtle softening around Damien's eyes, the way his free hand drops to rest on Ivy's head. Even now, swaying from blood loss and coming down from combat, he gentles his touch for his daughter. Red emergency lights cast stark shadows across the warehouse floor as Damien advances on the interpreter. His boot pins her shoulder, pressing her into the cold concrete. Blood seeps from his wound, but his voice stays steady, controlled. Every detail. Now. His command cuts through the distant wail of approaching sirens. The interpreter's laugh comes out wet and broken. She was perfect leverage, a deaf child who can't call for help, can't tell what she sees. Her eyes slide to Ivy, who presses closer to Ren's side. So valuable, because she doesn't scream? Something shifts in Damien's expression, a terrible stillness settling over his features like frost. His finger moves to the trigger with the quiet precision of absolute certainty. The shot echoes once, clean and final. Ren shields Ivy's eyes, turning the child's face into her shoulder. When she looks back, Damien has lowered his weapon, swaying slightly as he faces them both. The video was staged, he says, voice rough. I knew they were watching you, waiting for a chance. I thought. He draws a ragged breath. I thought if I exiled you publicly, made them believe you were vulnerable. You let them think you believed their lies, Ren finishes, understanding blooming like an ache in her chest. I let fear make me cruel. His words fall between them like stones. When I heard the safe house was burning, when I couldn't reach you. He presses his good hand against the wall for support. Then seeing you shield her, protect her, even after what I did. Ren steps closer, Ivy's small hand still clutched in hers. Her free hand lifts to sign, movements sharp and clear. You can be ruthless to the world, but never again to me. Love needs truth first. The space between them charges with unspoken things. Damien's hand finds her jaw, thumb tracing her cheek, where bruises are beginning to form. When their lips meet, it's desperate and brief, a promise sealed in the taste of copper and adrenaline. We need to move, Ren says against his mouth, feeling him sway. She spots a heavy curtain hanging from an office window and tears it down with quick movements. Ivy, help me with the light? Ivy pulls the small flashlight from Ren's bag, holding it steady while Ren fashions a makeshift sling. Her small hands are sure and careful as she directs the beam where needed. Hold still, Ren orders Damien, who manages a ghost of a smile despite the pain as she secures his injured arm. Blood has soaked through his shirt, but his eyes stay alert, scanning their surroundings even as she works. The building's main doors stand open to the night, where red and blue lights paint the street in alternating colors. A medical team waits with a black SUV, equipment ready. Sir, we need to... One of the medics starts, but Damien cuts him off. They go first. His tone brooks no argument. He watches with hawk-like intensity as Ren helps Ivy into the vehicle, following only when both are safely inside. The interior is warm and dark, smelling of leather and antiseptic. As they pull away from the warehouse, Damien pulls out his phone one-handed. His fingers move across the screen with practiced efficiency, sending rapid commands. Ren catches glimpses of bank codes and legal documents. He's moving money, she realizes, using the accounts from her mother's ledger to create an impenetrable wall of protection around them both. City lights flicker back to life in their wake, the power grid humming back online. Inside the SUV, they form a tight triangle, Damien by the window, Ren beside him, Ivy between them. The child's small hand reaches out, touching both of them, a bridge connecting their separate worlds into one. Ren watches the city blur past, feeling the weight of Ivy against her side and the solid warmth of Damien's thigh pressed against hers. The medic in the front seat keeps glancing back, clearly wanting to check Damien's wound, but something in their tableau makes him hesitate to interrupt. Ivy's fingers move in small patterns against their hands. Not quite signs, but a rhythm all her own. Safe, home, family. The words she's been learning to shape, now woven into the quiet space between heartbeats. Damien's good hand covers Ivy's, then extends to include Ren's. His touch is gentle despite the gunpowder residue still marking his skin. The contrast strikes her, how he can end a life without hesitation, then handle his daughter like spun glass moments later. The SUV glides through empty streets, its path cleared by advanced teams. Wren feels the adrenaline finally beginning to ebb, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion. She lets her head rest against the seat, but her fingers stay linked with theirs. Traffic cameras track their progress home, each intersection carefully monitored by Damien's security teams. The city passes in a blur of neon and shadow, but inside their bubble of quiet, time seems to slow. A soft snuffle makes Wren look down. Ivy has dozed off, her head pillowed against Wren's arm. Even in sleep, she keeps her grip on both their hands, as if afraid they might disappear if she lets go. The medic begins laying out supplies, preparing to treat Damien's wound once they reach their destination. The streets grow familiar as they near the penthouse, but Wren knows they're returning to something fundamentally changed. The old boundaries have shifted, redrawn by blood and truth and choices made in darkness. Morning sun streams through the penthouse windows, warming the marble floors where Ivy practices her rhythmic tapping exercises. 2 weeks have transformed the space. Fairy lights now thread permanently along the halls, and a large whiteboard dominates one wall with the day's schedule written in Wren's neat hand. Damien winces slightly as his physical therapist guides his shoulder through another stretch. The wound has healed clean, but rebuilding strength takes time. He watches Wren and Ivy from his position on the exercise mat, their synchronized movements a dance they've perfected over countless mornings. Better range today, the therapist notes, releasing his arm. 1 more week of daily sessions should do it? Wren glances over, catching Damien's eye. She's learned to read the tension in his jaw that means he's pushing too hard. Her fingers move in a quick sign. Careful. He nods, the gesture both acknowledgement and promise. The rule board hanging near the elevator catches his attention. Their new constitution, written in permanent marker. No blood visible. Announce presence. Respect bedtime. Each line bears both their signatures, a contract between violence and peace. After the therapist leaves, they gather at the kitchen island where architectural plans for the park renovation lay spread out. Ivy points excitedly to the new lampposts being installed, their bases wrapped in protective padding and fitted with soft lighting that won't hurt sensitive eyes. The plaque arrived, Wren says, pulling out a small bronze rectangle. Want to see what you picked, sweetheart? Ivy traces the raised letters, spelling home with careful fingers. Her smile blooms, slow and sure, as she signs, Our Park. The morning unfolds according to their carefully crafted schedule. Damien's security team arrives for their sign language lesson, forming a circle in the living room. They've taken to the training with unexpected dedication, these hard men who now compete to master the most fluid expressions. Remember, Wren demonstrates, emergency signals need to be clear and sharp. Show me danger right. The men mirror her movements, their faces intent. They've learned that protection requires more than muscle and metal. It needs a vocabulary of silence. By afternoon, they're at the chapel. Sunlight filters through stained glass, casting ivy leaf shadows across the floor where they once fought for survival. Now the space has been transformed with white flowers and soft fabrics. Wren wears a simple cream dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Damien stands tall in his dark suit, shoulder moving easily as he lifts his hands to sign his vows in tandem with speaking them. They've practiced for days to synchronize the words and gestures so Ivy can follow both. I promise to protect, to listen, to learn your language of love, he signs, voice steady. To make our home a sanctuary where truth comes before fear. Wren's fingers shape her response. I promise to stand beside you, to guard our peace, to keep building bridges between worlds, to remember that love makes strength from gentleness. Ivy bounces on her toes between them, hands flying in excited patterns, family, happy, love, until they both kneel to include her in their embrace. The reception is small, intimate. Damien's most trusted lieutenants stand guard with uncommon softness in their stance, watching Ivy teach younger cousins the sign for dance, while music vibrates through the floor. Later in their bedroom, Wren traces the healing scar on Damien's shoulder. Does it still hurt? Not anymore. His fingers thread through her hair. Nothing hurts here. Their kiss is unhurried, a quiet celebration of survival transformed into belonging. The city glitters beyond their windows, but its dangers feel distant, held at bay by the walls they've built with routine and trust. Morning arrives with familiar rhythm. Lights on, 3 breaths, safe. Breakfast appears precisely at 7. Ivy's favorite pancakes, fresh fruit, coffee for the adults. The schedule flows seamlessly from 1 hour to the next, each transition marked by gentle signs and established cues. Movement therapy at 1 o'clock has become a family affair. They follow Ivy's lead through stretches and balance games, learning to communicate through touch and motion when words feel too heavy. Story hour brings them to the couch at 6, where Ivy practices reading both books and faces, her confidence growing with each successful interpretation. Damien and Ren take turns signing the stories, adding dramatic flourishes that make Ivy giggle. As evening settles, they notice a car lingering too long at the curb. Guards shift positions smoothly, their training evident in how they avoid alarming Ivy. Ren moves to the wall switch, flooding the room with the soft glow of fairy lights. Ivy presses her hands to the window, watching the city darken. Damien steps behind her, signing clear and strong. Safe, father, home. Her response is immediate and sure. Family. The sign encompasses them all as Ren joins them, her hand covering theirs in a layered connection. They take the elevator down together, stepping into the cool night air. The walk to the park is short, their path lit by new lamps casting gentle pools of light. Ivy skips ahead, paper boat clutched carefully in her pocket, a treasure from the day that started everything. The guards maintain discreet distance, professional shadows ensuring their peace. But here, within the circle of light and love they've built, the danger feels like a story from another life.